Student bullied for skin color. Years later, he returns. As the principal, the school hallways echoed with laughter, but not the kind that brought joy. It was the cruel laughter of kids mocking a boy for something he could never change, the color of his skin. Jamal tried to keep his head down, clutching his books, wishing he could disappear. Every insult felt like a cut, every shove a reminder that he didn't belong. Teachers looked away, classmates joined in, and the cycle of cruelty seemed endless. What no one realized was that the boy they laughed at carried something stronger than hate: resilience. And years later, when those same hallways echoed with footsteps, it wasn't Jamal the victim walking them. It was Jamal the principal. Jamal grew up in a small suburban town where diversity was rare and ignorance was common. His family had moved there when he was only 9, his mother believing the local schools would give him a better chance at education. But for Jamal, school became a battlefield. He was one of the few black students in the entire district. From his first week, whispers followed him in the cafeteria. "He looks different. Don't sit next to him." Those whispers turned into insults, then into outright bullying. By middle school, the cruelty was constant. Students tripped him in hallways, stole his lunch, and laughed at his hair, his accent, his very existence. Teachers often dismissed it, as kids being kids. But Jamal knew better. This wasn't just teasing, it was racism. Despite the torment, Jamal found solace in the library. Books became his refuge, a world where knowledge mattered more than skin. He discovered stories of leaders who had faced prejudice and still triumphed. Slowly, he began to imagine a future where his worth wouldn't be measured by those who tried to break him. High school didn't get easier. The bullying escalated, and by then, Jamal had developed a thick skin, at least on the outside. Inside, he promised himself one thing: if I ever have the power, no child will feel what I felt. No child will walk these halls believing they are less. That promise stayed with him, even as he graduated and left town. No one knew then that the boy they called worthless would one day return, not as a student, but as the leader of the very institution that once failed him. College was Jamal's escape. He studied education, pouring himself into his classes with a determination born from pain. While others saw school as routine, for Jamal it was a mission. He wanted to understand not just how to teach, but how to shape environments where children of every background could thrive. He excelled academically, earning scholarships and recognition from professors. Yet, the shadows of his past lingered. When classmates invited him out, he often declined, still haunted by memories of rejection. But he channeled those feelings into his work, interning in schools where marginalized kids struggled the way he once had. After graduation, Jamal began teaching in an urban school district. His classroom became a sanctuary, a place where every child felt seen and valued. He told his students, "This room isn't about where you came from, it's about where you can go." His words weren't empty, they were born from lived experience. Years passed, and Jamal climbed the ranks. He became an assistant principal, then a vice principal. Each step brought him closer to his vow, to protect children from the cruelty he endured. Then one day, an opportunity arose. The school district of his hometown was seeking a new principal for the very high school he once attended. The same hallways that had echoed with taunts of outsider now needed a leader. The decision wasn't easy. Jamal had buried those memories, and returning meant facing ghosts. But deep down, he knew this was the moment his life had been preparing him for. When his appointment was announced, whispers rippled through the town. Former classmates were stunned. Teachers who had once dismissed him struggled to reconcile the bullied boy with the accomplished man now taking charge. And when Jamal walked through those doors again, wearing a suit instead of a backpack, he carried himself with quiet power, no longer hunched, no longer avoiding eyes. He stood tall. The students looked at him with curiosity. Some saw only a principal, But Jamal saw himself in every child walking those halls. He saw the lonely, the mocked, the overlooked, and he knew his mission had only just begun. It didn't take long before Jamal's presence made waves. His leadership style was different. He didn't sit behind a desk barking orders. He walked the halls, spoke to students, and listened. He implemented mentorship programs, cultural awareness workshops, and created a safe space for students who felt marginalized. But the true test came during a school assembly. A group of students had been reported for bullying a new kid, a shy boy from another country who barely spoke English. The incident mirrored Jamal's own experiences almost exactly. As principal, Jamal could have handled it privately. Instead, he chose to address the entire school. Standing on stage, he shared his story for the first time publicly. He described the humiliation, the loneliness, the tears shed in silence. The auditorium was silent. Students who once thought bullying was harmless began to shift in their seats. Teachers who had been blind to cruelty now stared at the floor. And then Jamal revealed the twist. The boy you laughed at, the boy you shoved in these same hallways, is standing here before you today. I am that boy. And now, I'm your principal. Gasps echoed through the crowd. Some students looked stunned, others ashamed. Jamal continued, I returned here not for revenge, but for change. Because no child deserves to walk these halls feeling worthless. And as long as I'm here, I promise you, this will be a school where every student belongs. It was a moment of raw truth, the kind that shakes an entire community awake. Change didn't happen overnight, but it began that day. Jamal's story became a catalyst for transformation. Anti-bullying campaigns were launched, diversity clubs formed, and students began standing up for one another. The school that had once crushed him slowly became a place of hope. Former classmates, now adults, reached out, some apologizing for the cruelty of their youth. Jamal accepted their words with grace, but he never forgot the pain. Instead of resentment, he used it as a reminder of how far he had come. Years later, Jamal was recognized statewide for his leadership, turning one of the most toxic school cultures into one of the most inclusive. He mentored young teachers, ensuring they never ignored the silent suffering of students. And in quiet moments, when Jamal walked the halls alone, he would stop by his old locker. He remembered the boy who once cried inside it, hiding from bullies. Then he smiled, because that boy had kept his promise. To every child who feels unseen, Jamal's story carried a message. The world may try to define you by your skin, your background, or your struggles, but those very struggles can forge your strength. And one day, you may return to the very place that broke you, not as a victim, but as a leader. Bullies may shape your past, but they do not own your future. So the next time you're tempted to judge, laugh, or dismiss someone, remember, you might be staring at tomorrow's leader,